You are 9 years old. You stand at the edge of a courtyard in Susa, watching other children run through the alleys with their mothers behind them, calling their names in voices full of ordinary love. You have no mother to call your name. You have no father to lift you above the crowd. What you have is Mordecai, your older cousin, who took you in when the sickness passed through and left you the only one still breathing in your house. He combs your hair carefully in the mornings and makes sure you eat before he does, and teaches you the prayers in a low voice so the neighbors will not hear. He is enough. You tell yourself, he is enough. Susa is a city of layers. The citadel rises above everything, its walls the color of dried clay. And inside those walls, the palace of King Ahasuerus holds more gold than you can imagine, and more danger than you are old enough to understand. You live far beneath that world, in the quarter where the Jewish exiles settled generations ago, still speaking the old tongue behind closed doors. Mordecai has explained this to you the way a man explains the weather. It simply is. You are Jewish. You do not announce it. You move carefully. You speak when spoken to. You keep your eyes down in the market and your thoughts to yourself in the street. Your name is Esther, but Mordecai calls you Hadassah when no one is near. Hadassah is the name your parents gave you. Esther is the name the world knows. You are learning, without anyone teaching you directly, that there is a self you show and a self you keep. What you do not know yet, standing in that courtyard at 9 years old, is that the hiding will one day become the weapon. That the silence you are practicing now is preparation for something you cannot name. That the God who let the sickness take your parents did not look away from you. He simply moved you to a different position on the board. You do not know this yet. You only know the courtyard and the dust, and the sound of other people's mothers calling other people's names home. Years pass the way. Years pass when they are mostly quiet. Mordecai works at the king's gate. You grow. You learn to cook the food of two worlds. You learn to read. You learn to be pleasant to everyone without giving anyone too much. There is a version of loneliness that looks like grace, and you inhabit it so naturally that most people who meet you feel immediately at ease, warmed by something they cannot name, unaware that what they are feeling is the careful, practiced light of a girl who learned to survive by making others comfortable first. Then, the palace explodes. It happens in stages. First comes the news that everyone discusses in doorways. King Ahasuerus, in the middle of a feast that lasted 180 days, called for Queen Vashti to come before his guests and display her beauty. She refused. The refusal traveled through Susa like a stone thrown in still water. Vashti is removed. A search will begin. Young women from every province, beautiful and unmarried, will be gathered to the palace to be prepared and presented to the king. The one who pleases him most will become queen. You are old enough now to understand what this means. It is not an invitation. It is a collection. Mordecai comes home one evening and sits across from you and looks at you for a long time without speaking. You have learned to read his silences the way sailors read the sky. The king's men have already been seen in the Jewish quarter, and you are exactly the age and exactly the face they are looking for. He cannot hide you. He tells you this without saying it. He tells you one thing with words. He says it quietly, the way he says the prayers. Do not tell them you are Jewish. You carry this instruction into the palace the way you carry your own name, carefully, close to the chest, as something that could cost you everything if it fell. The palace of Ahasuerus is larger than a city inside a city. The floors are paved with alabaster and marble. The walls are hung with white and violet and blue curtains fastened with cords of fine linen. Everything gleams with the particular light of too much wealth held too long in one place. There are servants everywhere, and they move with the practiced invisibility of people who have learned the same lesson you have, and you recognize them immediately. Haggai is the one appointed over the women. He is not a gentle man exactly, but he is a precise one, and precision in a place like this is its own kind of mercy. He looks at you when you arrive the way a man looks at something that surprises him, not with desire, with assessment. Within a day, he has moved you to the best part of the house of the women and assigned you 7 maids and given you the best portions. You did not ask for any of it. You never ask. This is the thing about favor. It does not come to the ones who demand. It comes to the ones who are genuinely themselves. You still do not tell anyone your people or your kindred. Mordecai walks past the court every day. You see him from the window sometimes, a small figure at a careful distance, his face angled toward the building where you are, and you feel the cord between you still taut, still holding. The preparation lasts 12 months. 12 months of oil of myrrh for the first 6, then spices and ointments, then another 6 of other preparations. Your body is being transformed by a system designed to produce a single result, and you submit to it with the still, watchful attention of someone who understands that endurance is not weakness. The other women talk constantly. They compare. They strategize. They rehearse what they will say to the king. You listen. You say little. You store everything. Each woman is called in her turn. Each one chooses what she will bring with her from the house of the women, any adornment she desires. Most choose elaborate things. Once a woman goes to the king, she does not return to the house of women. She goes to a second house, the house of the king's concubines, unless the king calls her by name again. Most are not called again. When your turn comes, you ask Haggai what to bring, only what Haggai advises. He has been watching longer than any of them. There is wisdom in asking the right person for counsel, and a kind of humility in it that is also its own form of power. You go to the king in the 7th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the month of Tebeth. The king loves you more than all the other women. You obtain grace and favor in his sight more than all the others. He sets the royal crown on your head. You are queen of Persia. You are also still Hadassah, daughter of the dead, ward of Mordecai, keeper of a secret that now sits beneath a crown. The crown is heavier than you expected, not the physical weight of it. The weight is the other kind. Every woman in the palace watches you now. Every official measures you. Every servant calibrates their deference. And your actual power, you are already learning, is more complicated than the crown suggests. Ahasuerus is a man who rules the world and struggles to rule himself. He is not cruel in the way some kings are cruel. His danger is different. He acts from the heat of a moment and then lives with the consequences. Vashti is evidence of this. Mordecai is still at the king's gate. The cord holds across all the marble and distance. Then comes the day Mordecai uncovers something genuinely dangerous. 2 of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, men who guard the threshold, are planning to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. Mordecai learns of it. He tells you. You tell the king in Mordecai's name. The matter is investigated, found true, the 2 men hanged. The event is recorded in the book of Chronicles. The name of the man who saved the king is written down. And then, as so often happens in palaces full of more pressing power than gratitude, nothing is done for Mordecai. You notice this. You store it. After these things, King Ahasuerus promotes a man named Haman. He advances him and sets his seat above all the princes. He commands the servants at the king's gate to bow down and pay homage to Haman. All the servants bow. They bow every day because the king commanded it and because Haman walks through the gate with the particular walk of a man who has been told he is exceptional and has chosen to believe it completely. He looks for the bowing the way hungry men look for food. Mordecai does not bow. Day after day the servants ask him why. He tells them he is a Jew. They tell Haman. Haman sees that Mordecai does not bow, and Haman is full of wrath. But laying hands on Mordecai alone seems insufficient to a man like this. He understands, with the particular intelligence of someone very good at cruelty, that the right move is not one man. The right move is all of them. He goes to the king. He does not name the people. He describes them. There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from every other people. They do not keep the king's laws. It is not to the king's profit to tolerate them. Let it be written to destroy them. Haman offers to pay 10,000 talents of silver into the king's treasury. The king takes off his signet ring and gives it to Haman. Do with the people as it seems good to you. The edict is written in the king's name, sealed with the king's ring, sent by couriers into every province. On the 13th day of the first month, in the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, all Jews, young and old, little children and women, are to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated, and their goods plundered. In Susa the city is in confusion. The king and Haman sit down to drink. Outside the palace walls, the sound is different. You do not know the content of the decree immediately. News reaches you filtered, softened. But Mordecai is at the king's gate in sackcloth and ashes, crying out with a loud and bitter cry. You are told there is a man in sackcloth at the gate. You send garments. You want him to come in and speak to you. He does not accept the garments. You send Hathash, one of the king's eunuchs assigned to you, to learn what this is and why. Mordecai gives Hathash everything, the full account of the silver Haman promised to pay, the copy of the written decree, the numbers, the date, the scope of it. He sends the copy for you to see and understand, and he sends the command. Go to the king, implore his favor, plead for your people. You sit with it for a moment in the way you have learned to sit with impossible things, very still, not looking away. Then you send Hathach back with the truth. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that if any man or woman goes to the king into the inner court without being called, there is one law, to be put to death. Unless the king holds out the golden scepter, that person may live. But you have not been called to come into the king for 30 days. You have spoken the truth, you have named the risk, you are waiting to see what Mordecai will say to the truth. He says this, "Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone will escape among all the Jews. If you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" You read this and you put it down. You have lived your whole life being prepared for things, without knowing what the preparation was for. The orphan silence, the hidden name, the favor you did not ask for, every year of learning to move carefully through a dangerous world, every morning of being two people at once, every night of knowing that what you show and what you are kept separate by a thread you have maintained with great care, for such a time as this. You send word back to Mordecai, "Go, gather all the Jews in Susa and hold a fast on my behalf. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my young women will fast as well. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish." 3 days pass differently in the inner rooms. Food is everywhere in a palace. The smell of the king's kitchen travels through the corridors at every hour. Your maids fast with you, their silence a gift. You pray without ceasing in the way that is not always words, the deep internal turning towards something greater than strategy, greater than courage, greater than any plan a woman alone inside a palace can form. You are not alone. You keep this fact at the front of your mind the way Mordecai taught you to repeat the old words, low and careful and true. On the 3rd day you put on your royal robes. You stand in front of the mirror and look at what Persia sees when it looks at you. The robes are the color of royalty. Your hair is arranged by women who have spent years making queens look like queens. You look like a woman who belongs where she is standing. You do not feel like that. You feel like an orphan from the Jewish quarter walking into the throne room of the most powerful king in the world, without an invitation, carrying a secret she has not yet spoken, with the lives of every Jew in the Persian Empire resting on the next few minutes. You feel like Hadassah. You walk into the inner court. The king is sitting on his royal throne, dressed in the gold and purple of his office, looking at the door through which you walked. He sees you. The court is silent. Every person in that room knows the law and knows what they are watching. A woman who came without being called. A queen who has not been summoned for 30 days. The king's expression shifts. He extends the golden scepter. Your legs carry you forward. You touch the top of the scepter. Your hand does not shake. You have decided it will not shake, and it does not. The king speaks. "What do you wish, Esther the queen? Whatever you ask, even to half the kingdom, it will be given to you. You do not ask for the thing you came for. Not yet. There is a rhythm to undoing a powerful man's decision. And it is not the rhythm of confrontation. It is the rhythm of a meal shared, of presence established, of trust built in layers. You invite the king to a banquet. You invite Haman to come as well. They come, they drink wine. The king asks again. You say, "Let the king and Haman come to a banquet I will prepare tomorrow. Then I will tell you." Haman leaves the banquet joyful and glad of heart. He passes Mordecai at the king's gate. Mordecai does not rise, does not tremble, does not give him any sign of honor. Haman is filled with wrath. He goes home and tells his wife and his friends everything, the honor, the banquet, the queen's preference, and then Mordecai. "All of it worth nothing," he says, "as long as I see that Jew sitting at the king's gate." His wife and his friends have a solution. Build a gallows 50 cubits high. Ask the king to have Mordecai hanged on it in the morning. Then go to the banquet joyful. The gallows is built that night. The same night, the king cannot sleep. He commands the book of memorable deeds to be brought and read before him. The reader opens it to the account of Bigthan and Teresh, the conspirators, the life saved. What honor and distinction was given to Mordecai for this? Nothing was done for him, the servants say. In the morning, Haman comes to the outer court, intending to ask the king to hang Mordecai. Before Haman can speak, the king asks him what should be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. Haman thinks the king means him. He describes an extraordinary honor, the royal robes the king has worn, the horse the king has ridden, a leading through the city square, proclaiming before him, "Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor." The king says, "Quickly, take the robes and the horse, as you have said, and do this to Mordecai the Jew who sits at the king's gate. Leave out nothing that you have mentioned." Haman leads Mordecai through the city on the king's horse, calling out the proclamation. Then he hurries home, mourning, head covered. His wife tells him that if Mordecai is of the Jewish people, he will surely fall before him. While they are still talking, the king's eunuchs arrive to bring Haman to the banquet you have prepared. The three of you sit down at the table. The wine is poured again. The king asks the question again, "What is your petition, Esther the queen?" "Even to half the kingdom, it will be granted." You have waited 3 days of fasting, 2 days of banquets, a lifetime of preparation for this sentence. "If I have found favor in your sight, O king," you say, "and if it please the king, let my life be given me as my petition, and my people as my request. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be killed, to be annihilated." And then you say the thing you have never said to this man in all the years of being his queen. "I am a Jew. The king's wrath burns. Who is he? Where is he? Who has presumed to do this?" You point across the table. The adversary and enemy. This wicked Haman. Haman is terrified before the king and the queen. The king rises in his anger. Haman falls on the couch where you are reclining to beg for his life. The king returns. One of the eunuchs reports that the gallows Haman built for Mordecai stands at Haman's house, 50 cubits high. "Hang him on it," the king says. They hang Haman on the gallows he built for Mordecai. The king's wrath subsides, but the decree still exists. In the law of Persia and Media, a decree sealed with the king's ring cannot be revoked. The letters are already in every province. The date is still coming. You fall before the king and weep and plead for your people. He extends the golden scepter to you again. Write as you see fit concerning the Jews in the king's name and seal it with the king's ring. A decree cannot be revoked, but a counter-decree can be issued. The Jews in every city are permitted to gather and defend their lives on the very day the original edict named. The letters go out by mounted couriers riding the swiftest horses from the royal stud, into every province, into every city. In Susa, there is gladness and joy. In every province wherever the king's command reaches, there is feasting and a holiday among the Jews. The 13th of Adar arrives. On that day, the Jews gather in their cities throughout all the provinces to lay hands on those who sought their harm. The officials of the provinces help them because the fear of Mordecai has fallen on them. In Susa alone, 500 men are killed on the first day, 500 more on the second. You stand in the palace in the quiet that follows the day that almost ended everything, and you feel something that does not have a simple name. Not only relief, not only grief for what was nearly lost, something older, the deep recognition of a thread that was held tightly through every year of being small and hidden and careful. A thread that ran from the orphan's courtyard through the harem and the throne room and the 3 days of fasting and the name finally spoken, the thread held. Mordecai writes letters to all the Jews throughout all the provinces, establishing the 14th and 15th days of Adar as days of feasting and joy, sending gifts of food to one another and gifts to the poor. These days are called Purim, from the word pur, the lot that Haman cast to determine the date of destruction. You write a second letter with full authority to confirm these days. Queen Esther, together with Mordecai the Jew. These days shall be observed in their seasons, according to what had been established, with regard to their fasts and their lamenting. You sit in the palace in Susa, many years from the courtyard, where a 9-year-old girl watched other children with their mothers. The crown is on your head. Mordecai is at your right hand, elevated, honored, robed in royal garments of blue and white. Outside the citadel, the city continues to be what cities are, loud and alive, and full of people carrying their hidden selves carefully through their ordinary days. You know something about hidden selves. You know something about the cost of finally letting yours be seen. The girl who learned to hide her name in order to survive is the same woman who spoke her name to save a people. You did not become someone else. You became fully what you always were, in the only moment that required it. The God who placed an orphan on a throne still places the hidden in the right moment for the right reason. The story is not finished. You are in it.